But surely God does not within himself act, listen, incline, and answer. It must be said that he is speaking metaphorically. He approves all these, the exterior word, the interior meditation, and what is proposed. Second, he gives the reason for being answered when he says, O my king. In the Greek, this is the first verse. A threefold reason for God's answering is given. One of these is my king, for it belongs to a king to govern. And because this pertains to God, it pertains to him to provide necessities. Who shall not fear you, O King of nations? Jeremiah 10:7. Another reason is that he is God, for God is the goal of our desires and our preserver. In him my heart has hoped, and I have been helped. Psalm 27:7. And so he says, O my God, should not the people seek of their God? A vision for the living of the dead. Isaiah 8:19. The third reason comes from the side of the one praying, when he says, For to you will I pray, O Lord, as if to say, It is fitting that you answer, since you have promised to answer those who pray. Everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it shall be opened. Matthew 7:8. Neither does it matter that Jerome says, I beseech, while here it says, I will pray, since this indicates continuous prayer without cessation, as if to say, I will pray, so that I am always beseeching. We ought always to pray and not grow faint. Luke 18:1. The second part of the psalm follows. Here the first shows the confidence which he has of being heard. Second, the reason for the confidence. In the morning I will stand. Therefore he says, You shall hear my voice. In the literal sense, this means quickly, as if to say in a timely manner, for we should hope that God will hear us quickly. At the voice of your cry, as soon as he shall hear, he will answer you. Isaiah 30:19. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. The reason for confidence is expressed when he says, In the morning I will stand. Note that in the morning can be said about four things, namely about the natural day. There was evening and morning, one day, Genesis 1:5. Also about human life, and so youth is called morning. In the morning he shall flourish and pass away. Psalm 89:6. Also about the day of grace, when man is first converted to God, since then he begins to have the light of grace. We are filled in the morning with your mercy. Psalm 89:14. Also about eternity. In the evening, that is in the present life, weeping shall have place, and in the morning, that is in eternity, gladness. Psalm 29:6. Therefore, a twofold reason for confidence is given. First, he stands in the morning, that is, he clings to God and prepares himself for God. So Jerome has, I will be prepared. Before prayer, prepare your soul, and be not like a man who tempts God. Sirach 18:23. In the morning of the day, therefore, that is at dawn, I will stand before you, that is reach towards you, and this is because a man is free at that time from cares, and has a freer heart to think about God. Lord, I will meditate on you in the morning, Psalm 62:7, and with my spirit within me in the morning early, I will watch for you, and you will hear my voice, Isaiah 26:9. Since he hears the devout in the morning, that is of grace, having pushed back the darkness of guilt, I will stand and I will contemplate, as the text of Jerome has, as the light of the morning when the sun rises shines within clouds. 2 Samuel 23:4. You shall hear my voice, by freeing me from guilt and from punishment. Or in the morning means in the day of eternity, when the morning stars praised me together. Job 38:7. And then man is heard completely. Or in the morning, that is from my youth, I will stand before you. It is good for a man when he has borne the yoke of the Lord from his youth. Lamentations 3:27. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Ecclesiastes 12:1. Shall hear my voice, because I love those who love me, and those who are in the morning early watch for me shall find me. Proverbs 8:17. The second reason for confidence is that he sees, so he says, and I will see. He explains first here how he stands when he says, in the multitude of your mercy. First he says what he sees, namely those who are hindered from being heard, and what these hindrances are. These persons are those who are evil, so he says, I will see, namely because you are not a God who wills iniquity. Two things should be noted here. First, that the evil are excluded from these things. Second, that they are brought to the evils of punishment, at you hate all the workers of iniquity. In the first case, he speaks about God as about any man who loves some and hates others. There can be three levels of response to evil for a man. The sin of the sinner is pleasing to one another, to one person. The person of the sinner is pleasing to another, and to still another, neither is pleasing, although he looks upon him freely and without indignation. This is not the case in God, since sin does not please God, nor does he regard the sinner's familiarity with him. Also, he is indignant to see him, and so he says in regard to the first, I will see that you are not a God who wills iniquity. That is, it is not pleasing to you. In regard to the second, he says, neither shall the wicked dwell near you. That is, you will not admit them to familiarity with you. He shall not dwell in the midst of my house. Psalm 107. I have hated the assembly of the wicked. Psalm 25:5. In regard to the third, he says, nor shall the unjust, that is, sinners, abide before your eyes, namely of approval. Your eyes are too pure to behold evil, and you cannot look on iniquity. Habakkuk 1:13. Here he shows how they are brought to punishment, and he lays out a triple order. For there are three stages by which someone hates another. First, he holds him in hatred by willing evil to him in his heart. Second, he pursues this by bringing punishment to bear. Third, although he punishes, he nevertheless reconciles him to himself. But God hates in the first way, hence it is said, you hate all the workers of iniquity. To God, the wicked and his wickedness are hateful alike. Wisdom 14:9. But on the contrary, you love all things that are. Wisdom 11:25. I respond, God does not hate what he made, but rather what he did not make, namely sin. But if we obstinately persist, he hates the sinner in the sense that he does not call him back and instead directs him through punishments. Second, he brings punishments to bear, and so he says, you will destroy all who speak a lie. The mouth that lies kills the soul. Wisdom 1:11. Note that a lie is of three kinds, namely the malicious lie, which is told to harm another, either in his spiritual or temporal welfare, for example, in doctrine, and this is very grave. The jocose lie, which is to delight others, and the officious lie, in which someone speaks for either temporal or spiritual profits. And according to Augustine, no officious lie is without sin, since if you lie to free another, this is not good, since the apostle says, do not do evil that good may come about, Romans 3:8. Additionally, then, any evil could be done for the sake of good. Nevertheless, the officious lie can sometimes be a venial sin, while the joking lie is always venial. The malicious is always mortal, and this text should be understood to be about this kind. Third, God hates in the sense of bringing punishments to bear without being reconciled. So he adds, the bloody and the deceitful man the Lord will abhor. We abhor those things which we cannot endure in our thoughts. Men of blood are those who desire the shedding of blood, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Proverbs 1:16. Come out, you man of blood. 2 Samuel 16:7. The deceitful is the one who speaks deceitfully. Now it should be noted that the psalmist proceeds in order, since man first does evil simply by thinking it, and God hates such men. When they add actually doing malice, they provoke God to punish, and when they persist in it, then God abhors them. The life of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord. Proverbs 15:9. Continuing where he says I, he shows how he stands in relation to the Lord, and he makes 2 points about this. He shows first how he approaches God, second what his prayer is at I will worship. Therefore someone might say to him, you say that neither shall the wicked dwell near you. But are you not a sinner? How then will you stand? And so he says, not according to my merits, but in the multitude of your mercy I will come in. That is, I will approach you in your house. Or in the literal sense, the temple is meant, or the congregation of the faithful, how you ought to behave yourself in the house of God, which is the church of God. 1 Timothy 3:15. For it is not for our justification that we present our prayers before your face, but because of the multitude of your tender mercies. Daniel 9:18. But since you are a sinner, that is a man of blood, how can you approach or worship? Certainly in your fear. He who is without fear cannot be justified. Sirach 128. So he says, in your fear, that is with reverence. Above, he asked that his prayer be heard. Here he puts it forward. And first, he prays for himself. Second, he prays for others. Regarding the first, he makes 2 points. First, he sets forth the prayer. Second, he gives the reason for it at, for there is no truth in their mouth. About the first, he asks 2 things, namely to be led and to be directed, and this is because man is in the world as on a journey. This is the way, walk in it. Isaiah 30:21. Now those who go on a journey need 2 things, since if the way is not safe, they need to be led, or, if it is doubtful, to be directed. In the world there are enemies all about. In this way wherein I walked, they have hidden a snare for me. Psalm 141:4, and again, the way is unknown to a man whose way is hidden, Job 3:23. And so he first asks, conduct me, O Lord, in your justice, according to your justice, or so that I may walk in your justice, and this because of my enemies. Your good spirit shall lead me into the right land. For your name's sake, O Lord, you will quicken me in your justice. Psalm 142:10-11. Another translation has, direct your way in my sight. The first agrees with Jerome, the second with the Greek. Nevertheless, the sense is the same, as if to say, Lord, I am in a hidden way. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end leads to death. Proverbs 14:25. So direct my way in your sight. That is, according to your providence, since nothing is hidden to you, or in your sight, so that I may always please you, or direct your way in my sight, that it may always be in my heart, so I will always be able to follow you. Afterwards, when he adds, for there is no truth, he gives the reason for the petition and describes his enemies and his imminent danger. First, from a lack of the good. Second, from an abundance of evil, since their heart is vain. Indeed, there is a lack, since they cared for peace. I would be able to placate them and advance safely, but there is no truth in their mouth, because they have one thing in their mouth and another in their heart. There is no truth. Hosea 4:1. And so I cannot advance safely. Likewise, he is in danger from an abundance of evil. And first, in regard to thoughts, where it is said their heart is vain, that is, they ponder on vain things which they cannot attain, namely to ensnare the poor who are guarded by you. For many are the snares of the deceitful. Sirach 11:31. Second, from their greed, since their throat is an open sepulchre. The throat serves for taste and for speech. It can be read in one way in regard to speech, as if to say their throat is an open sepulchre, because just as a sepulchre is the place of the dead, and a stench comes forth from it, so their talk kills others, either spiritually or physically. Evil communications corrupt good manners, 1 Corinthians 15:33. Further, the speech of such men is fetid, since they speak shameful things. Corrupted bowels send forth stinking breath, Sirach 11:32. In another way, it can be taken in regard to their eating and greed. We can take this literally, and in this case they are an open sepulchre, because they are ravenous, and they therefore flatter and act wrongly to feed their ravenous hunger. Or figuratively, and just as a sepulchre is, of its nature, prepared to receive the dead, so they are always prepared to deceive. Their quiver is as an open sepulchre, Jeremiah 5:16. Third, it can be taken in regard to their oppression. They dealt deceitfully with their tongues, as if to say they lead to death by flattering words. By pleasing speeches and flattering words, they seduce the hearts of the innocent, Romans 16:18. Their tongue is a piercing arrow, it has spoken deceit, Jeremiah 9:8. Next, when he says, judge them, he prays on behalf of others, and first he prays against evil persons. Second, he prays for good ones, at let all be glad. He makes 3 points concerning this. First, he asks for their judgment. Second, he specifies the manner of judgment, at let them fall. Third, he assigns the reason for judgment at "for they have provoked you." Therefore he says, "Judge them, because they are evil." But it should be noted that judgment is twofold: that of discernment, by which the good are judged. "Judge me, O God, and distinguish my cause," Psalm 42:1. And second, that of condemnation, "but he who does not believe is already judged," John 3:18. Here he speaks about the judgment of condemnation, by which the evil will be judged in the final judgment. So Jerome has, "Condemn them, God. But on the contrary, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you," Matthew 5:44. I respond that it must be said that the prophets in their prophecies did not speak by their own will. For prophecy came not by the will of man at any time, but the holy men of God spoke, inspired by the Holy Spirit, 2 Peter 1:21. And so what they proposed, they said according to the mind of divine justice, and so these were more predictions of the future than their own prayers. So judge them means I know that you will judge. A twofold mode of justice is described. First, that they fail in their intention. Second, that they be removed from that place. Through the first, the evil things which they intend are blocked, and so he says, "Let them fall from their devices," that is, from their plans. "He who catches the wise in their craftiness," Job 5:13. Or "let them fall" means may they be punished in advance with their thoughts accusing themselves, Romans 2:15. And through the second, they are expelled from the society of the good. So it follows, "According to the multitude of their wickedness, cast them out." This will happen when the words, "Depart from me, you cursed," are said, Matthew 25:41. "He shall drive him out of light into darkness," Job 18:18. And he says, "According to the multitude of their wickedness," since the measure of the condemnation will be in accordance with these. "According to the measure of the sin shall the measure of the stripes also be," Deuteronomy 25:2. The reason is described, "For they have provoked you," that is, they have provoked you to anger. This shows in God not anger, but the will to punish. Another text has, "They made you bitter, who are sweet, by obstinately sinning against you." Sinners first sin and compound their sin with obstinacy. God then does not spare them, but is provoked, that is, he is led toward vengeance. Do you not know that the benignity of God is to lead you to penance? But you, according to your hardness, treasure up for yourself wrath. Romans 2:4-6. "They have provoked me with that which was no God," Deuteronomy 32:21. Next, when he says, "Let all be glad," he makes a petition. First, he makes it. Second, he adds an explanation, "They shall rejoice forever." He makes 2 points regarding the first. First, he describes what he is asking, namely gladness. So he says, "Let all be glad, for this is the end of all good people. Let the just feast and rejoice before God, and be delighted with gladness," Psalm 67:4. Second, he shows for whom he asks, that is, those who hope in you. Therefore, when he says they shall rejoice forever, he is explaining the first, and he says, "Let all be glad." When he says they hope, he explains the second, "For you have blessed the just." For the gladness of the saints in the fatherland is eternal, and so he says forever. And it is secure, so he adds, "You shall dwell in them." It is full, so he adds, "Shall glory in you." It is indeed sempiternal, not temporal. "Joy everlasting shall be upon their heads," Isaiah 51:11. It is secure without disturbance. "My people shall sit in the beauty of peace and in the tabernacle of confidence," Isaiah 32:18. So he says, "You shall dwell in them," as a protector. Thus Jerome has, "And you shall protect them. Behold the tabernacle of God with men, and he will dwell with them," Revelation 21:3. For it is full, and this is clear, in 4 ways. First, from the glory conceived within, "So they shall glory," since no one glories about something unless he possesses it exceedingly. The saints truly do possess God most excellently, and so he says they shall glory. Second, from the matter, since they glory about a very complex thing and about every good. "Hitherto you have not asked anything in my name. Ask, and you shall receive, that your joy may be full," John 16:24. That my joy may be in you, and your joy may be filled, John 15:11. And so he says, in you. Third, from the fellowship, since alone a man cannot rejoice well about anything, but when he has friends, they participate in his good. And so he says, all. The dwelling in you is like that of all rejoicing. Psalm 86:7.